Hello, my name is Jenna Gibbs. I'm Director of Operations for the Ag Health and Safety Alliance, and thank you for listening to my poster presentation about infographic usage. So for many years, we've been using infographics in our Gear Up for Ag Health and Safety trainings. And one of our biggest questions is if these infographics actually enhance our programs. There are three main types of infographics, starting with our static versions. These are handouts or screens. They're basically just printed material with lots of images on them. These are the most common form of infographics used in trainings, and these are some examples that we use in our programs. Another type of infographics that we really like are called motion graphics. These are videos, they're often less than 2 minutes, and they use sound, animation, and text kind of all together to convey the message. And then the last form of infographics, we recently received some money from the Great Plains Center to explore the use of interactive infographics, which are actually websites. You can scroll, point and click, and interact with the website to look at different pieces of the infographic on your laptop or cell phone. So this is just an example of a recent infographic that we put together about respiratory protection and other types of protective equipment. So we've presented a lot on the development of infographics in past presentations, and I'm not going to get into that, but I will really stress that we don't use the infographics on their own. A lot of times we use the infographics with other aspects of our most immersive programming. So a lot of times we'll introduce a topic, show the infographic, and then we'll do some sort of activity afterwards. So for this project, basically in the last year, we asked all students in the United States to note their biggest takeaway following a Gear Up for Ag program. And we asked the students to do this by writing detailed qualitative information on Post-it notes at the very end of the program. Then an evaluator looked at all these different responses to see if it could be categorized and to see if any of the responses were related to any of the infographics that were presented. So this is just some example responses. And of course, they are widely varying. Some students would only write one word, other students would write, complete sentences. To date, about 40% of our information in our Gear Up for Ag program is presented through the use of infographics. So we have many topics, and our goal is to get that number closer to 100% because we think it's a very effective means of communicating. And then in about 5 of the U.S. programs that we looked at, we asked 228 students about their biggest takeaways. And as we will see, 86% of those takeaways were related to the material presented with the infographics. So this is just an example of the vast array of topics that we present on. And again, only about 4 of 10 of these topics do have an infographic with it. These are some examples of student responses, just showing that a lot of the responses are related to a lot of the more recent infographics about respiratory protection and ATV safety especially. And then, of course, just for fun, at the end, one student from the University of Arizona, I remember slowly trapping alligators in ponds in Australia. So okay, that's noted. Not all qualitative takeaways will even be related to health and safety information at all. So that's important too. So if we look at some of the largest takeaways in our program, it always kind of tends to be respiratory protection. That is where our expertise lies, but we also added some substantial interactive infographics and motion graphics this year with fundings from a pilot project. So overwhelmingly, a lot of the students say their biggest takeaway was related to respiratory protection information. And here in the blue pie chart, this just shows what the students said their biggest takeaway was. In blue, that information, we would talk about it during the training, we do have infographics to support that information. So it is very interesting. It seems like a lot of the takeaways are related to some of the materials presented in class alongside infographics. Same thing with ATV safety. It's another really common takeaway reported by students. In fact, almost a quarter of students said ATV safety. We got great funding from the Central State Center to develop a motion graphic on ATV safety. And again, a lot of the students said their takeaways were linked to the video directly. So we think that these are really, really effective forms of communication. So we've been using infographics now for more than 3 years, and some of our biggest lessons learned is you cannot just present an infographic and then walk away, right? It's not its own product. Even in the newspapers, an infographic it comes along with a story. So we know that it has to be an immersive experience, and infographics are only one portion of this, which makes them so hard to evaluate. We also have learned that the more complex the infographic, it seems like the little bit less students are to remember a takeaway from that infographic. So we really like simple infographics without too much information. And a lot of students reported statistics directly from the videos or the infographics used in class. So it seems like they like that presentation of real data. And then finally, we did find that the animated and interactive styles were slightly more effective than those that were just in print. We would really like to thank all of our partners from the NIOSH Ag, Forestry, and Fishing Centers for really providing a lot of funding for this work, especially the development of the infographics themselves. And a special shout out to the Great Plains Center for funding our respiratory health infographics this year, and to the Central State Center for providing funding for an ATV safety. Both of them seem to be highly effective. And if you guys have any questions about this research, or you have questions about how to use infographics more often in your programming, please reach out to me. My email is here on this title slide. Thank you so much for listening to my poster today, and I hope that you guys have a great MRASH conference.